Chapter 5 of Baiting the Bears by a Self-Made Man. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 5. Phil has a narrow escape. "I don't know whether you've remarked it or not, Weaver," said Reese to his friend the cashier one morning after they had arrived at the office, "but I've just tumbled to the fact that whenever the old man has a confidential errand on hand, he sends for Thorne to execute it instead of having Enoch to attend to it. I haven't noticed. Seems to have taken quite a shine to the boy," sneered Weaver, who was now thoroughly unfriendly to Phil because the lad was on such a cordial footing with the pretty new typewriter, while he, one of the most important employees, could not obtain a footing in her good graces. "We'll have to try and manage somehow to get him discharged," said the bookkeeper. "My friend Dexter ought to have the job here. I backed up his application." "You're not losing your pull, are you?" laughed Weaver. "Oh, I guess not," answered Reese with a frown. "It must be Thorne has an influential friend who knows the old man. Otherwise I can't see how, after being fired out of Rowland's, he could connect here. Lockwood is mighty particular who he employs. Well, he got on all right, and he seems to be making good headway in the boss's good books. We must, as you say, put our heads together and see if we can't create a vacancy at his desk. We'll have to be cautious about it, for it wouldn't do for the old man to get a hint of any underhanded work in the office. I understand him well enough to know he wouldn't stand for it. I suppose you haven't thought of any plan as yet, have you?" "Nothing which promises success." Just then Enoch sauntered up. "Say, Uncle Ralph, lend me a quarter, will you?" "What for?" "'Cause I'm strapped." "What do you do with your money?" asked his uncle, taking a piece of silver from his pocket and tendering it to him. "I've been working the races this week, and it didn't pan out." "Didn't I tell you to keep out of the pool rooms?" "Why, all the fellows I go with patronize 'em, and make a hit every once in a while." "When did you make a hit?" asked Reese severely. Enoch couldn't answer. "Look here, Enoch, how do you and Thorne get on now?" "What's the use asking me that? You know we don't get on at all. I hate him." "What's he done to you?" "He hasn't done anything in particular." "Well, you don't like him." "No, I don't, and you know it." "I don't fancy him either, Enoch." "I know you don't. He got the position you expected to work Dexter into. It's a wonder you couldn't manage to get him fired." "It isn't so easy to do that because he's got on the right side of Lockwood. If you and some of your friends could only manage to do him up one of these days, I would make it worth your while." "Would you?" asked Enoch eagerly. "How much are you willing to stand?" $10. "Make it 20, and I'll see what I can do." "I'll make it 20, if you show results." The buzz of Mr. Lockwood's bell cut short further talk between the uncle and nephew, and Enoch walked off to answer the summons. During the week, a boom had started in GW&O shares. Phil accidentally discovered that Mr. Lockwood was buying the stock. After looking into the past record of the railroad, Phil concluded to take a chance at it, and instructed his broker to buy 800 shares at 81. He went and drew $4,800 and deposited as a margin. "If this should turn out unlucky," he mused, "I still have $500 to fall back on." Within a day or two he found out that a strong syndicate was at the back of the movement. He concluded not to say anything to Marie about this new deal, as he didn't think she would approve of it, and he didn't want to enter into an argument with her. "I feel it in my bones that I'll make a good haul out of this, if I don't hold on too long. The great trouble is to know just when to sell. As long as the stock is going up, a fellow hates to draw out, and while he's thinking about it, maybe a screw works loose with the people who are bulling the market. Then the bears get their innings, and presto, the prices come tumbling down about your ears." When he went to lunch next day, GW&O was up to 83 on the ticker. "That looks encouraging," he murmured as he walked down to the door, where he found his friend Dick Ovens waiting for him. As he started to walk up to Broad Street, a heavy substance done up in a bit of brown wrapping paper landed on the sidewalk at Phil's feet. Both paper and contents were shattered by the collision, and the boys saw that the missile was a brick. They looked up, but they couldn't tell whence it had come. "Gee!" exclaimed Dick. "If that hit either of us on the head, our name would have been Dennis. Looks kind of suspicious, doesn't it, to see a brick done up like that? They don't use such things for paperweights in Wall Street offices." At that moment a bootblack ran over to them from the other curb. "Say, A black-headed feller throwed it out of the second-story winder. I seen him look out and then drop it on to yous. Wanted to knock yous out, I guess." "Are you quite sure of that?" asked Phil, with a flush of indignation rising to his face. "Didn't I tell yous I'd seen him do it? Will you come upstairs with me and point him out?" "Sure, boss, if yous want me to." "Come along, Dick. This is a serious matter. I'll bet it's a trick of Enoch Reese's to do me up. The rascal hates me. You ought to have him arrested if you can bring it home to him," said Ovens, following his friend up the single flight which had led to the floor on which were situated Mr. Lockwood's offices overlooking Wall Street. Opening the door of the reception room, Phil, Dick, and the bootblack entered, but there wasn't any sign of Enoch, although it was his duty to be there. Phil looked into the counting room and saw Enoch talking to his uncle. "Come here," said Thorne to the bootblack. "Is that the person who dropped the brick?" "That's him for a fact." With an air of resolution, Phil walked over to the head bookkeeper's desk. "What'd you drop that brick on me for just now?" he asked Enoch. "What are you talking about?" sneered the messenger. "You heard what I said, and I want an answer, or I'll go to the police station and swear out a warrant against you for criminal assault." "What's the matter with you, Thorne?" asked Reese, taking up a hand in the matter on behalf of his nephew, who had turned pale at Phil's threat. "Matter enough, I should think," retorted Phil angrily. "Your nephew doesn't like me, and now he shows it by letting a brick done up in a sheet of paper down on my head." "Who says he did?" inquired the bookkeeper threateningly. "I say so," replied Phil stoutly. "Did you see him do it?" "No, but I got a witness out of the reception room now who did see him." "That's all rot. Enoch has been here from the moment you went out to your lunch. So you see he couldn't have thrown the missile you're talking about. And you mean to tell me, Mr. Reese, that of your own certain knowledge your nephew hasn't been near one of the reception room windows since I went out?" "That's what I mean." "All right," answered Phil after looking the man in the eye. "I'm bound to take your word for it, as you are supposed to be a gentleman." "Supposed to be a gentleman, you puppy!" cried Reese, boiling over at last. "Do you dare insinuate that I am not a gentleman?" "I insinuate nothing, Mr. Reese," replied Phil coldly. "You ought to know whether or not you are a gentleman." "Why, confound your insolence!" "I don't see any occasion for you to get excited, sir," interrupted Phil. "But I want Enoch to understand that if I catch him up to any nasty tricks aimed at myself, I'll make him suffer for it." The boy turned on his heel and went out, taking Dick and the bootblack with him. "Did you put it up to him, Phil?" asked Dick. "That's what I did, and I'm satisfied he's guilty of the deed. But his uncle took his part and asserted that he wasn't near the windows at all." "He did, eh?" "Yes. I haven't the least doubt that they are both capable of swearing to a lie in court if Enoch is made to face the music, so I guess their testimony would weigh more than the word of a mere bootblack. It would be 2 against 1 at any rate, and the case would be dismissed without you had another witness to corroborate the shiner." Phil was satisfied that Dick's view was the correct one, so he thanked the bootblack, gave him a dime to pay him for his trouble, and then he and his chum went along to lunch. End of chapter 5.